All right, we're live. Yes, welcome to this Friday session, Pims and Appframe news. We'll kick it off with what's new in Pims, and afterwards we'll see what happens during the summer with Appframe. Just a reminder, in inside omega365.com, you can see the schedule of these Friday sessions. We'll try to have every Friday, except for vacations. Okay, so we'll kick it off with Pims. Johnny?
Okay, yes, thank you, Jan Christian. So yes, we have our monthly release cycle, and in this release there are some important updates. I think we'll start with document control. Perhaps the most important feature in our Pims document controller solution is the review component, where we use Foxit. And it's really nice because we have managed to get a fully integrated review tool, which is also fully browser-based. And Foxit released version 7 several months ago, and we've had it through very heavy testing, both internally, and we got good help from some of our clients and engineers using it. So, and we've got good feedback on this latest version. So. I think it's very, very good. So Alexander is with us here. So he's the product manager of Pims Document Control. So he can give a short update on what's in this Foxit 7 and how it's impacted our review process.
Yep, good day, if you can see my screen. So what we've heard from the clients with the old version is that it's sometimes not very comfortable to use because it's not the full screen size, and it's sometimes the contents is just on top of the or comments on top of the content, so it's not that easy to work with. So with version 7 we have rebuilt our review application and utilized the latest and greatest Foxit 7. So now you see it's more like full screen, and the biggest improvement we had was the side panel, which now contains all the content of the annotation there. So it's fully functional. If you see any annotations there, text is provided in the list. You will see the whole list of the annotations. More than that, if you just click on them, it will scroll to the correct page and show it in or highlight it. It's also searchable, so I can see comments by persons or by text like this. Yep. Now annotations tools also support undo and redo features. So if you type something wrong, you can just control that to undo it. And with this latest version, we have improved tools like pencil or clouds and annotations, clouds and rectangles and circles, for example. So now you see I'm doing some of the markups using my pencil, and it will be one annotation, not separate strokes as it was before, which is quite comfortable to use. Full screen is what we finally have. This is fully functional full screen. You can just even hide the contents tab, and there you go. Version 7 of Foxit also has an improved performance on huge files with several hundred of pages, which is quite quick. You have this thumbnails panel where you can just scroll very quickly and see all the annotations in there. And also just to mention that while rebuilding this application from scratch, we've made a minimum, or we've tried to have as minimum read and write operations to the database as possible, just to improve the performance from users. So that's it from my side. If you want any more details, just contact me or anyone in our teams. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, very good. There are also various other updates, of course, in this release, but I think for document control, this Foxit update is for sure the highlight. Also, Pims cost management, we've had a project there for a while to make it fully available in the browser. And Alexei has some news to share with us on how that's progressing in.
Yeah, hello everyone. As Johnny mentioned, the Pims cost management has been moved to web, fully functional. And subscribe to our channel to see more videos later on all the other functionalities I will be showing in other videos. But today I'm going to show you just a few good things we've implemented in the web version. So I will now share my screen. Okay, so one of the cool features we have in the new web cost management is that we've implemented an import phasing mechanism. Basically, the why we did it is that in the time phasing, typically when cost engineers work, they have their models built in Excel files where they do the time phasing from left to right. Just a second. Yeah, so they typically want to see it like a curve going from left to right, and they typically have huge files, something like I'm going to show you now. This is a typical file the cost engineer would have with all the different phasing model in here. What they wanted is the client was always asking is that they wanted to be able to import the phasing as bulk files or bulk updates very quickly and efficiently. And I'm gonna introduce to you this import wizard we have. This is the import time phasing wizard. So it works both from the clipboard and from the Excel file. It has a built-in mechanism of identifying some verifications, mistakes in your input. And there is a few options you can do. You can either import the cumulative phasing or periodic, and it can be either cost or progress. So I'm just going to show you an example of file here. So we have about that figure there. I'll just select all the figures from here like that. So they're going from left to right. I'm just going to click Control-C. Come back to my application. So here are a few parameters what we need to specify which type of phasing we are importing. So based on your permissions, it's gonna, of course, either allow you to do that or not. So I'm gonna import the forecast phasing now. I'm gonna start from February 2020. I'm saying to the import wizard that my clipboard file includes the work pack ID, so it can also do the checks in the system against work packages you have. And I can also, if I had already some phasing in, I can do the append phasing, so it will add it on top of the existing phasing. And I'm doing it from the clipboard. So I'm gonna do that. So there is a bit of things happening in the background. It does all the checks, verifies the data, and it says verified 50 records. So actually, I had much more records in the file, but in terms of this form specifically, it then summarizes all the work packages ID. So you can have several rows for the same work package, and it does all the thing in the background for you. So now I've identified that it has 50 work packages to update. And if I'm clicking import, that's it. That's how quick it is. It's super quick. And we have some other built-in functions in here to quickly update, for example, your estimate based on the phasing you have. So if you click that, you can run it based on current work package. You can choose the specific WBS or just run it all at once. And this is how quick it is as well. So my input is basically ready. So another feature I wanted to show you is the pivots. Well, I talked about the pivots in general in the other video, and I think I will be showing more updates coming up later. But in this release, we've introduced this menu on the web applications, which is called pivots. So that is a configurable menu per domain, and based on your permissions to a specific pivot, then you don't need to go to the pivot application itself, find that specific pivot and load it. You can just run it directly from here. And now I can check my input. That loads all the data. And here it is. That's the final value. And it's very easy to manage it through the articles. For example, I want also to add the for chart, or I have also created for export to Excel layout, which is just work packages IDs, the same kind of layout I showed you in the Excel file, because then it's easy to just export it, work with the figures and import it back. So if I want to include that in my pivot menu for the application and cost time phasing, what you need to do in the configuration, in the settings, we have pivot menu settings. So here I will pick again the time phasing application. I will pick the time phasing pivot and the layout for export to Excel. Now, if I go back to my cost time phasing form, here I will have the pivot menu right away. So very convenient, very easy to manage. And that's basically it for the pivot menus. Another thing we are working at the moment is a bit of insight I wanted to give you. Is a lot of clients currently asking about the interface with the other databases and also about the Power BI. So we started working on some Power BI applications connected with the cost management. And basically, I just wanted to show you how easy it is to integrate it within our app. So when you have an application configured in the Power BI desktop, I just made up a few quick dashboards here. You can then basically, if you add it to your code as a frame to an application, so this is an example of our application. That's all the code I had to add. And basically, when I run it now, I have a fully workable dashboard, and you can browse through the records, and it's all updatable. That's it from me today. So keep following our channel for more updates.
Good. Thank you, Alexei. So this is all available in this August release or next release?
The Power BI dashboard is something we are working still on, but the time phasing and all of the other features I showed, the pivot menus is already available. Good.
Yeah, and it's actually quite interesting, this Power BI dashboard. We have also some integrated dashboards coming in Pims, because one of the challenges we see with Power BI dashboard is that you have to deal with security in a different way, and it's not as fully integrated as if it is something that we already have in Pims. So, but of course it's very relevant in very many cases to have dashboards available in Power BI as well. So it's great that we support that. In addition, we are releasing this month also some new type of dashboards. Completion management have developed, and this is what is planned to be released next month. And this is, I think, a really nice dashboard, which is built with, I got it on the screen here, which is built with the idea of having it scroll bar so that you can get more stuff on it and you will be more flexible. Those traditional dashboards that we used to have in Pims are typically those kind of one-pagers. But here you will see that there is several items or several elements that are nicely shown scrollable like this: punch items, handover certificates, etc., etc. And mixing all kinds of styles, like with charts, tables. Here we have a table with some nice charts inside, etc. And we are still working on to finalize how exactly the layout should be on these ones, and how flexible it should be when it comes to define which items are available. as you will see here, there's a settings where you can pick and choose which items should be there. We are still, in some cases, it might be good to set this at a domain level and not be something that the end user need to relate to, and just let it be available for the administrator of the domains to pick and choose which items should appear, because anyway the users can easily navigate and view and scroll down to see what they are interested in. But that so this is something that is also on its way. This completion management dashboard is planned to be released next month, possibly also one for document control. It might be that is something we get the month after. Yes, so that's I think the highlights from what's coming in Pims, so came in the last release of Pims, and some of the stuff that is on its way for the next release. Jan Christian, you have something on Appframe as well?
Yes. Let's see. It's sharing screen here. So during the last actually 2-3 months, we have put all kind of the effort to get what we built in Appframe 365, Omega 365 into Appframe R4. Moved a lot of the tooling, DB manager, scheduling, app designer, code module designer, deployment and updates. So this is a continuous improvement on this. But first of all, I hope that everybody knows that you can now go to appframe.com and look at the release notes and see what's happening. You also have access in Omega 365 to workflow items, filter for Appframe R4, and you will see everything and you can track the milestone there. One of the biggest things that we have done is that we moved from our local SVN and Jenkins to GitHub and using Azure pipelines for building Appframe. The team actually introduced this to each other through a meeting a couple of weeks ago. So you can go to Microsoft.com streams and see the video. You have access. Bootstrap 4 is implemented, not utilized by Pims yet, but that will come. During this release, .NET is updated. 4.8 in web, which means through code module, you can now utilize the latest .NET. For WinForms, it's 4.6.1, and you can read more about it in the release notes coming. Then we have a developer dashboard in my Omega 365. I won't show that now, but have a look in the menu and see if you can see the application. If not, send me a message. But there's a developer dashboard where you can see the status of Pims applications in our cloud platform, which you have access to or you have a responsibility in for. So you can see the availability and the status of, and we'll keep updating this dashboard with more health data and security updates. And now the last thing we will see if we are able to call up. Okay, so we have called up Jan Leon, who will show us some news. Great R&D project going on down in Stavanger.
As Jan Christian mentioned, we have a new R&D project where we are looking into developing a new light Windows client. It's not going to replace the existing Windows client, but it's an alternative for developing standalone applications. And the current goals are to have data binding against typed objects. So instead of working with data sets and data tables, we will generate classes for each object and have full intelligence on fields in our code. And it will be using standard HTTP calls to communicate against the existing data API instead of using remoting or VCF. And the application will include all dependencies, so we will not rely on assembly loading from the database like the existing client. We will target .NET Standard 2.0 for shared components like login, data access, and some binding functionality, which will allow us to target more application frameworks. And we will use the latest DevExpress components for developing WinForms applications, which will also allow us to use the latest features from DevExpress. And since we are using a shared backend for authentication and data API between R4 and Omega 365, it should also work against both versions of the framework. And the current status is that we are working on data binding and authentication at the moment, and hopefully in a short time we will have a working demo application that we can demonstrate.
Cool, but this thing, no assembly loading, that basically means that our very easy way of deploying updates, that will not be possible in this new version.
No, you need to publish a new version of your application because without updating the application. Yeah.
And that will be because then, because the purpose here is really to have some kind of power tools, like say, for example, in Pims document control, where now web browser is the main tool. We still see that when dealing with the local file store, for example, of course, browser is not designed to interact with the file store the same way as a native application. So we could have a little Pims document control app that takes care of batch import or batch export or special things with the file system, for example. And when we want to deploy updates, we have to deploy that Pims document control application through, for example,
ClickOnce or MSIX, which is the next version of ClickOnce.
Yeah.
So the sending updates to end users will be smoothly.
Yeah. But it's not, and that's, so it's kind of it perfectly fits into the philosophy that we have with Pims R4, where almost all users are on the browser, and then we have some special tools that is more practical to use for some few users in the Windows client.
Yes.
And perhaps also the report designer is that we talked about that might be something that we will only have in this tool, the Pims Appframe report designer, for example.
Yeah, that's a good candidate for this kind of applications.
Yeah, and then it might be just one Appframe report designer application, perhaps. This is very early, so I guess shouldn't speculate too much.
Yeah. But it's the most important thing is this assembly loading, and then that it gets this kind of standalone. So dependencies on like DevExpress version, upgrading it for if you had your batch import application and then you have your second application.
Yeah.
Those two are not depending on or don't need to depend on the same DevExpress version or other dependencies in the database.
Yeah, because that's what we've seen when upgrading Pims around the world. DevExpress upgrades, that's really what makes it much more complicated for us, because everything is tied together and relies on that. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, but then we'll let Jan Leon keep on hacking out some good code.
Can demo it perhaps the next Friday?
Yes.
Or in a couple of weeks.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay.
See you then.
Bye.
Bye-bye.